Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. How are y'all doing this morning? I hope everybody's having a blessed morning this morning. I want to say I missed you all on last Friday. I actually had to go and take some time to do what it is that I'm actually going to be talking about today. So this is going to be extremely personal for everyone on here today. So tag somebody, share this post because today we are going to get to it. Welcome back to another episode of the Empower Her Experience podcast. And so listen, we're getting ready to talk about something that we all do or we think we're doing right, but I want to know, are we really? Are we really? So today we're going to be talking about the difference between self-care and soul care, because there is a difference. And so I want to ask you, you're doing self-care, but is your soul still tired? Let's talk about that. Let's get into that. So, and I want y'all to talk back with me today because, as I said, this is going to be personal today. And so we're going to really get real about this topic today. So let's talk about it. Self-care versus soul care. So let's talk about how we would define self-care versus soul care. So self-care is the stuff, that we do to keep our bodies and our minds going. This is maybe going to the gym or taking that vacation or watching your favorite show or sleeping in, because life be lifing, y'all. Life be lifing. And so we need these things, correct? Right. And so those are things that we do to take care of our body and our mind. So soul care, that's different. Soul care is the internal work. This is the praying and spending time with God. This is meditating on the word. This is journaling. This is worshiping. It's caring for the part of you that people can't see, but knows that that God knows that this needs attention. Okay, so this is the part that no one sees. Yes, they can see you at the gym working on your soul care, but your self-care, but they can't see your soul. So this is something that you have to work on yourself. Okay, so here we go. Let's get into it. Self-care can help you function, but soul care keeps you anchored. Otherwise, you're just maintaining the outside. You're just maintaining the physical you, and then the inside is crumbling. My God. And so soul care and self-care, they're both necessary. For one, the Bible tells us that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So caring for our bodies is also a form of worship. So we need the kind of rest that massages can't give us, right? We need to we need the kind of care that sleep can't solve. Have you ever slept for 10 hours and then you still woke up exhausted? If that's ever happened, that's actually not your body. That's your soul saying, I'm not okay. I'm not okay and I need rest. So that is the difference. Hey, Miss Alice. Hey, Maisha. How are y'all doing this morning? Good to see y'all on here. So, but yeah, so you can sleep for 10 hours and you still wake up feeling exhausted. Then that means that is not your body. That is your soul saying that I am not okay. Okay, that is your body saying, your soul saying, I'm not okay. So you're physically resting, but spiritually, you're still wrestling. And so let's talk about what happens when we neglect both of these, because we have a tendency, even though we know that we need to take care of our bodies, even though we know that our soul needs attention, sometimes these are the very things that we neglect. We neglect self-care. And then let's be real, when we neglect our self-care, we get snappy, we get irritable. Sometimes we get sick. Our body starts to shut down. Our immune system starts to get weak and things like that. And we are, hi, Miss Shawana. We start to, hey, Cotton Candy. We start to shut down. And we, like I said, we become irritable. And sometimes our body starts to tell us that we start to get headaches and start picking up colds and things like that, because we have not been giving self-care to our bodies and to our minds. But when we neglect the soul care, this is us walking around, we're successful, we're smiling, but inside we're hollow, disconnected from God, from ourselves. We are producing, but not peaceful. And that's dangerous. That is dangerous, because sometimes if we start to think that because we're prospering naturally or physically, that we are prospering spiritually or prospering in our souls. So when we start to do that, we'll start filling the void with stuff. We start filling the void with people. We start trying to fill that void by achieving things and going after things, goals and things. But the thing about that, those things are never enough. They're never enough, because the soul is never satisfied with surface stuff. The soul is not satisfied with surface stuff. And so that is what happens when we neglect both of the self-care and the soul care. And so we've talked about how we define it. We've talked about now what happens when we neglect them. But and we've talked about why they are both necessary. Okay. And I want to bring it back before we really get into this, but I want to bring it back by saying that Jesus even practiced self-care, y'all. He didn't just practice soul care. He practiced self-care. He slept on the boat in the middle of a storm. He ate. He took time away, but he also practiced soul care. He often withdrew to pray. Luke 5:16, it says Jesus withdrew often to lonely places and pray. So this means that he was intentional about his soul care, not just his self-care. So, you want to feel refreshed, but make sure that your refreshment is coming from the source, not just the spa. Okay. So I want everyone to think about, everyone who's on here, I want you to think about what your self-care routine looks like. Do you even engage in self-care? Do you really know what that looks like? Maybe it's gym time. Maybe it's therapy, because it's therapy for me, because I got to get my therapy sessions in. Yes, the therapist needs therapy sessions too. Hey, life be life for us too. And so, hey, Tashara. But yes, for some people it's gym time. For me, it's therapy. I love nature walks, y'all. I love to go on nature walks. I like to see the squirrels running around. And during my nature walk, a lot of times I am listening to some music that's feeding my soul, or listening to something inspirational that is feeding my soul as well. And so moving my body helps me. I like to make sure that I watch my shows. I love to binge watch some shows sometimes. And then reading is good. I love to travel. And then sometimes just mentally unplugging, period. And and shopping. Shopping's good. I love massages. So those are the things I like to do for self-care. So think about the things that you like to do. And what gets me is, a lot of times I talk to people about what they do for themselves for self-care. And a lot of people say, I don't do anything. Well, that's not okay. Because remember, I told you a few minutes ago, self-care is us taking care of our bodies and our minds. So, and for some too, one of the big things for me is creativity. I love creating. When I create, it does something. It's so refreshing for me. But also just like getting rest. And by rest, I mean not just sleep, but not doing anything, not doing anything. So, so think about that. And if you find that you haven't been doing self-care, today's a good day to start. Today's a good day to make a change. And so, and now let's talk about, what does your soul care routine looks like? What does that look like for you? For me, it's first thing in the morning. It's sitting with God. It's journaling. It's devotional time. It's worship music. It's sometimes just sitting in the quiet, just kind of getting my mind together, getting my mind right, reading the word, and just like being still. And because listen, sometimes soul care is saying no to some things that drain your spirit. Sometimes you just gotta just unplug from some things that are draining, and take some time away from the things that are draining you. Why? Because protecting your peace is protecting your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. I always say this: if it costs you your peace, it is too expensive. And it means that I've got to unplug because it is draining me. Okay. So think about what your soul care routine looks like. And if you're not doing enough, or if you're not doing anything to feed your soul, today is a good day to start. So let's talk about what it looks like for your soul to be tired. What does it look like when your soul is tired? So I'm going to give you some signs that your soul is tired. A lot of times we think is, oh, I got to get away because I'm tired and I'm drained. Well, it's not your mind, and it's not necessarily your body that is tired. It's your soul. Wow. A lot of times we don't think about that. Good morning, Miss Shane. Yeah, so let's talk about this. How do you know that your soul is tired? One is, nothing feels fulfilling. Nothing feels fulfilling. Even after you've accomplished some things, even after you've gone on vacations, even if you've done the retail therapy and the shopping sprees, you still feel empty. So nothing feels fulfilling. You know that you can tell that your soul is tired when you have constant restlessness. You're physically still, but you're mentally and spiritually unsettled. There's like an undercurrent of anxiety or an uneasy feeling, like something is always off. That's a sign that your soul is tired. Another sign is you start to feel spiritually disconnected. Like sometimes, maybe you haven't experienced this, but sometimes your prayers start to feel like a chore, or or sometimes you don't feel like praying at all. Sometimes it's reading the word, which, it starts to feel like you're just reading out of duty, but it's dry. Yes, I got you, Tashara. But thank you for tuning in. But reading the word starts to feel dry and starts to feel meaningless, and you start to feel distant from God, and you can't feel his presence. That is when your soul is tired. Good morning, Miss Alice. And so another sign that you can tell that your soul is tired is you are emotionally numb and overwhelmed. Like either you feel everything too deeply, or you don't feel anything at all. Have you ever been in one of those positions to where stuff is happening, and normally it would be stuff that would really like shake you, and stuff that you would really be feeling some type of way about, and you notice you don't feel anything. Somebody's like, how you feeling? I don't feel anything. I feel numb. And you discover that you're emotionally drained, even by the smallest interactions. They start to drain you. That is how you know that your soul is tired. Another way that you can tell that your soul is tired is you have chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue that rest does not fix. Rest will not fix it. You can sleep for 10 hours. You can sleep for 12 hours. You can get all the sleep you want, but you wake up still feeling exhausted. No amount of naps, no amount of downtime, nothing seems to restore your energy. This is how you know that your soul is tired. Your soul is tired when you feel a loss of purpose or, lack of direction or loss of direction. Like you start to question your path. You start to question your purpose. You start to question why you're doing what you're doing. And life starts to feel like you're going through the motions, and you get to a place where you're just existing, just surviving, but not living. Just surviving, not thriving. You're just existing. And so that is how you can tell that your soul is tired. You can tell your soul is tired when you start getting so irritable that you become very cynical. You are very easily annoyed. You are easily critical about things. Everything seems to be negative that comes out of your mouth. Your perspective on life becomes really negative. You start to feel kind of hopeless and become this pessimistic person that doesn't really have much good to say or doesn't really see much good in things anymore. You can tell by those things that your soul has gotten tired. Wow. Another thing that you can, another way you can tell that your soul is tired is when you've become withdrawn and isolated from other people. You start to pull away from people, even people that you love. Like it's not necessarily that you're mad at them or that they've done something. You just drained. And so you withdrawn and you begin to isolate. You pull away from people, even the people that you love and love you. And then sometimes you feel like nobody can understand what you're going through. So it's just best for you to just withdraw. And so all of those are some signs that show that your soul is tired. So somebody ought to just put in the chat, I need some soul care and self-care. Soul care and self-care. They are both necessary, extremely necessary. And so in short, like when your soul is tired, like I was saying, you can't pray, can't think straight, you can't feel deeply, you can't connect meaningfully, you're functioning again, but you are not thriving. Okay. And so those are signs that you can tell that your soul is tired. Your soul is tired. So we need to give proper care to our souls. Hey, Juanita. Hey, Miss Tammy. Thank y'all for tuning in this morning. Yes. So again, we are talking about self-care versus soul care. And, we have some life experiences, y'all, that can really affect not just our bodies and not just our minds, but it can deeply affect our soul. And I think a lot of times we think when we're going through these things, we think that it is only affecting our mind and our body, and we're not thinking about what these things are actually doing to our soul. You know why? Because a lot of times we're just going through the motions. We're just going through the motions. We're reading our Bibles because we know we're supposed to read our Bibles. We're going to church because we know we're supposed to go to church. We are praying because we know to pray. But there's something that's hollow about it because we have taken so many blows, blow after blow after blow from life. Anybody ever? Hey, Jita, how you doing? We've taken blow after blow after blow. Anybody felt like it's just been life been throwing you one thing after another? If it's not your body, it's your finances. If it's not your finances, it's your kids. If it's not your kids, the people on the job acting crazy. If it's not the people on the job acting crazy, then it's your family. Something's going on with your family. All these different things. Life just be life, and divorce happens. Your spouse act like they want to act crazy. All of these things. And all of these things can impact your soul. Betrayal by somebody that you trusted, that can be something that impacts your soul, because betrayal cuts deeper than disappointment, y'all. It will shake your sense of safety with people, and it can affect your sense of worth. But those things can deeply wound and affect our soul and impact our soul. Even loss impacts our soul. It doesn't just impact our mind. It doesn't just impact our body. It impacts our soul, like grief and death. Soul grief is when there's a part of you that feels like that feels missing, like you'll never be whole again because of whatever this is that you've lost, or whomever this is that you've lost. So it is affecting your soul. And then prolonged disconnection from God. The longer that we get disconnected from God, or that we feel distant from God because of these blows or these seasons that we've been in spiritual droughts, those things can leave our soul feeling parched and feeling empty. So identity crisis, not really knowing who you are anymore, especially after like major life events, like when people go through divorce. So like I have literally talked to people who in their 70s and 60s and 70s, and they have spent the majority of their life with this partner. The partner either died or something happened, like divorce and things like that. And then they realize that they have lost their identity in that relationship, or even in a job. Like you've been on a job for 20, 30, 40 years, and now you retired, or you've left the job or lost the job. And now it's like that job was your identity. That's how you identified. And now it's no longer there. Who am I outside of that job? Who am I outside of that relationship? Oh, or the kids. Put all your energy into the kids all these years, and now the kids have gone off to college, or the kids have moved out, they've started their own life, and now you're empty nester. Who am I outside of this? So those things can have a significant impact on your soul, because now you don't know who you are anymore, and you are in an identity crisis, and now your soul feels hollow. Another thing that tends to impact our soul is unhealed trauma as a child. Some things that happen as a child, or child abuse, or neglect, or life-altering traumas that we've gone through that still sit in our souls that we haven't dealt with, that we haven't healed from. And it distorts how we see ourselves, how we see other people, and sometimes even how we see God. Another thing that I've noticed, that I've even experienced, in the past, is like broken dreams and disappointment can deeply affect our souls. Like when life doesn't turn out how you hoped that it would turn out, or your unrealized dreams, or dealing with infertility, or good morning, Miss Barbara, or failed businesses and failed ventures that we set out to do. Those things can really fracture our souls. And again, we tend to think about only our mind and our body that it affects, but it does affect our soul. Chronically being rejected. Anybody have dealt with rejection or abandonment? Sometimes repeated rejection can convince your soul that maybe you're unworthy of love or unworthy of belonging. Those things can truly, affect your soul. Oh, and then I'm finna hit you with this one. Soul ties. Oh my God. Soul ties and toxic relationships. People do not realize how relationships are so important to your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Somebody ought to put that in the chat. Relationships are important. Good morning, Danae. Relationships are important. Being deeply intertwined with somebody who drains you, somebody who's manipulative, or somebody who does things to hurt you can damage your soul's health if you don't break those soul ties. Somebody put in the chat, break the soul ties. Break those soul ties. Sometimes we get connected to people who are so toxic to our well-being. And sometimes we've gotten so deeply involved with them that we really can't even see that it's toxic. That we really can't even see that the relationship is not good for us, that it's draining. You got people gaslighting you, making you think you're crazy. That they're the ones who are doing it, but they're making you think you're crazy. They're manipulating you. Those things can damage your soul's health. So soul ties, breaking those soul ties. And another thing that can deeply impact our soul is seasons of prolonged suffering. See, that's good right there. And we us in the church, we got a tendency to say, talk about the seasons. Yes, we talk about those seasons. Hey, Miss Sherry, we talk about them. The seasons change. But how many of you have ever been in a prolonged season of suffering before? Look, I'm gonna raise both hands. Where like maybe you have experienced sickness for a long period of time. I know at one point, now, a lot of people may not know this, but I dealt with diabetes, and we know diabetes is a chronic illness. And for a long time, I know at one point, for a period of 3 and 4 months, every single day that I woke up, I was either sick or in pain. And it had such an impact on my mental and my emotional and even my spiritual well-being, because the prolonged suffering and sickness started to wear on my mental. And when it starts to wear on the mental, then it starts getting in the heart. And it wasn't that I didn't believe God. It wasn't that I didn't lose faith. It was that the prolonged suffering began to wear me down. Hardship can wear down your spirit. Mental health battles, dealing with depression for a long time. You may be battling with grief or relationship issues or things like that. And so it's affecting your mental health, and dealing with depression for long periods of time, dealing with anxiety for long periods of time. Those things can wear down your spirit. They can wear down your spirit and sometimes even start to affect your hope. And so seasons of prolonged suffering. Yes, Miss Barbara, this is real talk. I like to get real because that's the only way that we can heal is if we get real. But yes, so seasons of prolonged suffering can truly affect your soul. Another thing that can deeply affect your soul is unforgiveness and bitterness. We don't want to talk about that, y'all. We don't want to talk about that. Why? Yeah, we know we're supposed to forgive, but do we? We know we're not supposed to hold grudges, but do we? And I know that we hear people say this, and we love to hear this, that forgiveness is it's like drinking poison and watching other people die. Yes, it truly is. But how many times are we drinking the poison? How many times are we still holding on to things that we really need to let go? How many times are we still holding on to bitterness, carrying grudges, and carrying unhealed anger that has cluttered our soul, that's blocking our peace, that's blocking our growth? Y'all, we so many people do not understand how unforgiveness, they say forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. That's true. But guess what? You both can benefit from it. Because even though forgiveness is for me, it might help you to grow when you see, I don't have my foot on your neck anymore. That I can forgive you even though you don't backstab me. That I can forgive you even though you did me wrong. So it can be for both of you, but more so forgiveness is for you. But holding on to unforgiveness and holding on to bitterness deeply affects your soul. Deeply affects your soul. And so you letting go. And sometimes people say, well, you don't realize what they did. What they said to me was very hurtful. What they did to me was very hurtful. It's unforgivable. Okay, so I got a news flash for you. If you don't forgive them for what they did, how do you expect to be forgiven when you do something wrong? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Somebody put, we got to forgive. We got to forgive. Forgiveness is a requirement. It's not optional. Well, yeah, it is optional, but what's the alternative? What is the alternative? So listen, I always say this. They did what they did to hurt you. They did what they did to backstab you. They did what they did to wound you. That took away something from you. Why continue to let it take something from you? Because the longer you hold on to unforgiveness and bitterness, they're still taking away something from you. You're still giving them power. Nope. Take your power back. Take your power back. Somebody drop that in the chat. I am taking my power back. I'm taking my power back. So I'm going to forgive. I'm going to let it go. What does it mean? I am releasing this person from what they did. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not condoning it. It didn't feel good. No, I didn't like it. But guess what? I'm not going to hold on to it anymore. I ain't got time to hold on to it. Why? Because I got to protect my peace. I got to protect my peace at all costs. I want to grow. I want my soul to prosper. So many times, we live in a society that focuses on prospering in health and prospering in wealth and things like that. But you know what? I want to prosper in my soul. I want to prosper in my soul just as much, because the Bible says, beloved, I wish that above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prosper. So why not prosper in everything? Why just go after the money? Go after the goals. Go after the fortune. Go after the wealth. Go and be in the gym 7 days a week, and then your soul is suffering. Why? We don't have to. We don't have to. So we got to forgive and let go of bitterness, because those things do affect our soul. And then this is a big one. I know don't nobody want to talk about this, but like I said, I keep it real, and I'm going to keep it real. So listen, spiritual abuse and church hurt. Nope, we don't like that church hurt. And listen, let me tell you, I'm a pastor's wife. So church hurt, pastors hurt. I'm going to throw that in there. What about pastor's wife hurt? All of those things. All of those things. Whoop, yep. Danae, don't nobody want to talk about it. But guess what? I ain't scared. I'm going to talk about it. Spiritual abuse, church hurt, pastors hurt, first lady hurt. Those things can deeply affect your soul. Yep, we can pray. Yep, we can read our Bible. It does affect our soul. Why? We are still human beings at the end of the day. I don't care nothing about Evangelist Copeland. I don't care nothing about Sister Copeland. I don't care nothing about First Lady Copeland. Guess what? At the end of the day, I'm still a human being. I still have a heart of flesh. I still have flesh. Still have emotions. So, but those things, being wounded by people who misuse their power, being wounded by people you thought you could trust, being wounded by people who stand next to you with their arms up and they're singing louder than anybody in the room. Those things can affect your soul. It's not just wounding your mind. It wounds your soul, and it can wound your connection to God and community. Why? Because one of the first things people do when something happens is they want to stop going to church. They want to stop reading their Bibles. They want to stop praying and all of those things. Why? Because their soul has been wounded. Their soul has been wounded. So now their connection to community, the church, their connection to God now is suffering. because they're not doing the things that are necessary to connect with God. So spiritual abuse, those things can affect our soul. I'm going to leave that alone because we don't like to talk about that. But it's truth anyhow. But I'm going to do a whole podcast episode on that one. So I'll move on right now. But we'll come back to that later. All right. And so another thing that can truly affect our soul is lack of purpose or lack of calling. And this is y'all wandering around without a sense of why you're here. Now, I got to say this. Now, some people, they're here, they're everywhere. I say wandering. That's why I call it. It's wandering. Not wandering, but wandering. Here, there, everywhere. No sense of purpose. Trying to do what this one do. Trying to do what that one do. Comparing yourself to this one. Why? Because you don't even know who you are. You don't know who you are. And so now you're dibbling, dabbling here, this and that, because you don't have a lack of purpose. You don't know what it is that God has truly called you to do. So you're over here trying to measure your life based off of what Sister Watermelon doing or Brother Cantaloupe is doing. And so now you're wondering without a sense of why you're here, leaving your soul feeling restless and unfulfilled and empty. Why? Because you are not walking in your lane. You are not walking in your purpose. You are not walking in your calling. You're out of your lane. Somebody say, get back in your lane. You get back in your lane. And connecting with God helps you begin to find out what that purpose is. So you begin to feed your soul by letting God lead you into where you're supposed to be. But lack of purpose and lack of calling. Yep, Sister Watermelon and Mr. Cantaloupe, Juanita. But yeah, so those things, all of those things can deeply affect our soul. Make us feel hollow inside, make us feel empty, make us feel spiritually drained and without purpose and just going through the motions. All of those things. So again, as I'm going to wrap this up here in a minute, but again, as I reiterate, self-care takes care of our human needs. This is addressing your basic human needs, your physical needs, rest, nourishment for your body, exercise, hygiene, medical care, doing some things to relieve stress, and implementing boundaries, therapy, stuff that helps you with reducing anxiety and, operating in life effectively with your work and your relationships and your responsibilities. So I want you to think of it as caring for the outer life. Your body, your brain, and your energy. That's self-care addressing your human needs. The soul care is the emotional and spiritual needs. Soul care dives deeper into your emotional and spiritual self. Your emotional needs, healing from wounds, processing grief, forgiving, reconnecting to your heart, your purpose, your identity in Christ, your connection to God, your connection to community, aligning with your values, aligning with your beliefs. It's wholeness. It's restoring the things that the world can't see, your peace and your hope and your joy and your sense of grounding, being grounded. And I want you to think of it as caring for the inner you, your inner life, your soul, your spirit, and your heart. So I want you to, moving forward from today, don't just focus on self-care, but focus on soul care. Because remember, you can do all the self-care you want, get all the massages you want, but if your soul is tired, none of that is going to make much difference. Self-care will help you cope. Soul care is going to help you heal. Self-care might keep you going. Soul care is going to keep you grounded. You need to be whole, not just well. You need to be whole, not just healthy. Drop that in the chat. I want to be whole. I want to be whole. Hey, Miss Linda, I want to be whole. Yes, Miss Barbara, boundaries, balance. We need balance in our lives, but I want to be whole, not just healthy. All right. So I kind of got, I've been giving you like this challenge at the end of the episode. So today, no different. I want to challenge you this week. I want you to be intentional. That's my word. That is my word. I want you to be intentional about your self-care and be intentional about your soul care. So do one thing each day for your body and your mind that outer you, and do one thing a day, at least one thing a day. You can do more, but at least one thing a day for your soul, the inner you. So you can go for that walk, you can take a nap, you can do some stretching, but then you need some uninterrupted time for soul care. Maybe you only have 10 minutes. Read your Bible, journal, pray, worship, whatever it is that your soul needs. I challenge you every day this week. Even if, like I said, it's 10 minutes. Do something to feed your soul, not just your body and your mind. Because as we always say, you can't pour from an empty cup. But how many times do we find ourselves pouring from an empty cup? You know you're pouring from an empty cup because everything is irritating you. You get tired. You're tired. You're frustrated. You're irritable. You want everybody to leave you alone. Now you're pouring from an empty cup. That's how you know you're pouring from an empty cup. So you can't continue to pour from an empty cup. But one thing you do need to do is make sure that your cup is connected to the source that fills your cup. Because otherwise, you're just running on fumes. Anybody know what it's like to be running on fumes? Running on fumes. Yep. Running on fumes. I know exactly how that feels. I know how it feels to sleep for 10 hours and then you wake up and you're still drained. That's because you need soul care. So you got it. Let's do the body and the soul. Body and the soul. Drop that in chat. Body and the soul. Don't just glow up physically and then stay broken spiritually. Because balance is the key. And watch, when you do these things, watch how it will shift your week. Watch how it will shift your mindset. Watch how it will shift your mood and how you will have such peace and joy when you give attention to both yourself and your soul. So I want you to accept that challenge from me this week. And I want to thank you as always for tuning in to the Empower Her Soul. Yes, thank y'all for accepting this challenge. Body and soul. Body and soul. But I want to thank y'all as always for tuning in, because I know there's so many things that you could be doing with your time. In so many ways that you could be spending your time. You don't have to spend it with me, but I thank y'all so much. Thank you, Miss Barbara. I appreciate that. But yes, so she said, okay, Danae, it's on your tracker. I got you. I'm right there with y'all. Challenge accepted. So after this, I'm gonna go back to sleep and get me some self-care. But I'm also gonna take care of that soul today, y'all, because I'm tired. It's been a week. So but yes, I thank y'all so much for tuning in. Let other people know about this challenge, and maybe, they'll want to get in on it too. And next Friday, when we come back with another episode, we're gonna see how y'all did with the challenge on this week. But self-care and soul care. So again, thank y'all so much. I hope y'all have a blessed weekend. I'm about to hibernate this weekend because y'all life been lifing this week. So I'm going to go hibernate, but I want you to have the best weekend ever. Be amazing today as always. And until next Friday, be strengthened, be empowered. We'll see you next Friday at 9 a.m. I love y'all too. Love you too. Love you too. Y'all have a blessed weekend and thank you. Bye.